All right, it is 6 o'clock in the morning. Says 68 degrees, but I don't really think it's 68 degrees. There's Jeff. Hey.
What's up?
So Jeff is a super nice fella. He and Lucy put me up a couple nights ago, and then he woke up at like stupid early this morning, 4 o'clock or something.
Yeah.
So to get me back up here to Highway 20. So yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Pleasure.
it. Cool.
Nice.
I'll check back. All right, good morning again, guys. So it's just about 6:01, and as I said, Jeff just dropped me off back at Santiam Pass, aka Highway 20, aka Natural Bail Point for Bend. So there's a little spur trail I'm gonna hiking, sort of technically trail south at the moment, just to go tag Highway 20 where my footpath last diverged from the PCT. So yeah, so you saw my video yesterday, sort of the complete roundup of what I've been doing and why I've been in Bend so long and this and that. It is definitely still just a little hazy and smoky out here right now from the fires I mentioned yesterday. What was it, Bedrock, and I forget what the other one was. But better certainly than it was 2 days ago. And hopefully it looks like all the winds are supposed to be northwest winds, that is to say blowing in the direction of southeast. So with my general direction being mostly north, the hope is that in another 20, 30, 40 miles I should be clear of the smoke, at least from these fires, and then whatever lies ahead with respect to smoke. But frankly, I mean, trying to bob and weave through smokes is unrealistic. And I just have to keep moving at this point. So as I mentioned in yesterday's video as well, tomorrow is the beginning of trail days up in Cascade Locks, which is again about 150 miles or so trail north of here. But clearly I won't be making that, which frankly is all just as well. I hadn't really made up my mind as to whether that was something I care about or not, and it seems more as though it's something I care not about. So yeah, getting out of here, I don't really know what my distance is going to be. Don't really know how far I'm going to go. I'm going to try and clock something over 20 would be my hope. Speaking of 20, here's Highway 20 again. So there it is. Yeah, I'd like to do over 20 miles. It looks like water availability shouldn't be much of an issue. I was checking on that. Also looks like weather for the whole jump shouldn't really be much of an issue. I'll say just a couple of quick things and then get hiking. So first off, I had kind of really miscalibrated exactly how much food I would need to get to Cascade Locks and this and that. So I carried out like 4 days of food for this jump, but again, as I said, it's like 150 miles and I don't think I'm gonna make it in 4 days. So my other options are a place called Government Camp, which is pretty much right up there. Maybe I'd be like 20 miles or something my side of Cascade Locks. Or there's another place, some lake I forget the name of, that's about 44 or so miles trail north of Highway 20. That's alleged to have a decent enough / workable resupply. So I think that's kind of what I'm looking at, is eat as much food as I need to eat to get to that lake, and then get to that lake and buy whatever food I need to get to Cascade Locks. Obviously, somewhere in there is the Timberline Lodge as well, which if you don't know, I ain't gonna tell you, but I'm excited to see it. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is that Jeff, trooper that he is, I was checking my receipts for the food that I parceled off to Washington the other day, just to kind of make sure everything felt good one last time, and indeed everything did not feel good. It looks like I mistook 2 of the addresses. So I sent one parcel that was supposed to go to Stevens Pass to Snoqualmie, and one that was supposed to go to Snoqualmie to Stevens Pass. Hopefully I can make that work. The bigger bummer is that on my receipt from USPS there was no listing for my box to Stehekin. So I know I brought that box to USPS, but I'm thinking that in the jumble of what became a total of 5 boxes, which I was dispatching from USPS, that my box bound for Stehekin was not paid for or accounted for. So where Jeff comes into all this, because I only just noticed that this morning, and I've asked him if he'd be willing and able to run down to the post office, figure out whatever's going on with that box. Kind of thinking maybe it's just sitting on the counter there with no postage on it. And obviously, if that's the case, Jeff said he'd be willing to pay for it and I can pay him back or whatever, of course. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that Stehekin box. Luckily, there's enough time to pivot if we have to. But anyways, I'm back up to my pack now, up at the trailhead. So I'm gonna throw that thing on and get hiking. This was a plenty long check-in. I'll talk to you guys a little later. Cross-pollination here.
It's like, don't cross the beams, Ray.
So that's Huck.
Yeah.
What's the name of your channel?
Huck was here.
Huck was here.
Yeah.
That's right.
What's yours?
I'm Traveling Beat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got good stuff here. I ran into him last in Julian.
Julian, a long time ago. So
70 or
yep,
something.
Feels like half a lifetime ago.
It does.
Cool.
But happy hiking, everybody.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Good to see y'all.
Take care. Keep up the good work.
Likewise.
Man.
Likewise. Good evening, folks. It is 4:37 and 71.1 degrees. I have indeed made it to home for the night. This is a tent site at mile 2025.1. There's the tent all pitched up, looking good, feeling great. Not by any stretch of the imagination a huge day today. I think it was about 23.3 miles or something like that, which will leave 20 something, like 20 light to get to Olali Lake tomorrow. Still haven't really made up my mind. I think I'm just going to see what time I get there and let that determine what my plan for the day is. But if it's like 20 miles away and if I'm able to break out halfway early per usual, I should be there decently early. So we'll kind of see how we go. But again, I do want to swing by there because I frankly don't have enough food to to go all the way to Cascade Locks on account of a little counting error. Speaking of not having food, I did hear from Jeff, who was kind enough to swing by that post office today on my behalf and just kind of ask some questions about the box which I had mailed out. And frankly, there's really no great answers. I'm not sure what happened to the box I sent to Nijmegen. They said at the post office that they don't have it. They don't remember getting it. I know I brought it. I know I brought it, but I'm not really mad at anyone. I'm more just kind of confused. Word from the post office was basically that because what I think happened was I think it just got lost in the shuffle when I was paying for some boxes. They just slid that one over to like the paid and stamped pile before it was paid and stamped. Basically, the receipt doesn't have any of the tracking information or purchase information or anything like that for my box to Nijmegen. So what I think happened is when I left the post office, there was just one of my boxes sitting there, totally unpaid for. And according to Jeff, what the post office said is that at the end of every day, they do like a pretty thorough scrub of the place just to make sure that there's nothing like that happening. But that if indeed such a box were to have been left without any postage whatsoever, that their MO would just be to send it to return to sender, even if there was no postage initially on it, which is kind of strange. So totally possible that my box to Nijmegen is instead going to go home to Northern Virginia. So I kind of put my wife on alert for that in case she sees it, just to bounce it forthrightly out to Nijmegen. And hopefully I have enough time to make moves if I do need to get a second box out to Nijmegen or whatever. But whatever, that's all trouble for another day. Nijmegen's still an awful long ways away. What's not an awful long ways away is bed tonight. So I'm feeling pretty decent. I would have liked to have done more miles today, but really it doesn't really matter. This whole next slog is going to be I don't know. I don't really have anything to say there. It's just going to be what it is. I'm going to go as fast or as slow as I feel like it, and that's just kind of the way it is. I will say something that's been on my radar as I was planning out all of those resupply boxes to go through the entire state of Washington was, the word around the campfire, so to speak, is that Washington gets considerably more difficult than Oregon's been, which I'm expecting and frankly looking forward to, because I think that also is accompanied with some really, really, really spectacular sights. So in budgeting all of those resupply boxes and figuring out how much food I need, pretty much budgeted 25 miles a day. So be it on account of my bum ankle or whatever else, the hip rash, whatever you want to blame it on, whether it's tough terrain in Washington or whatever. It wouldn't surprise me if I do another couple big days before I get to Washington, but it also wouldn't surprise me if before or after getting to Washington, I start to throttle back just a little bit and kind of taper those 30s and stuff like that I was playing with for a while. But we'll kind of see. Just like always, I'll do whatever the body feels like doing. And if that's a big day, that's a big day. And if it's a small day, it's a small day. I really don't care. I have no deadline. So that's kind of what we're looking at. That, I think, is about all I got today. I didn't mention that I'm dry camping tonight, but there is water in like 3.5 miles tomorrow or something. And then decent amounts of water for the rest of the day tomorrow. So I did carry in 2 liters, just 2 liters for camp tonight, but I stopped just under a mile ago back at Coyote Lake, and that's where I cooked and had dinner. So, the final thing I'll say about that is that usually when I cook and have dinner ahead of camp, I kind of like subtract that time out so that I can get to camp after 4, since that's just taking a chore away from once I'm at camp. But I wanted to camp here tonight, not for any reason other than that This is sort of like the last campsite at or above 5,000 feet of elevation, which is, I think, where I noticed the smoke begin to taper this morning. Theoretically, I should be north of the path of the lion's share of that smoke, but as I was hiking out this morning, definitely was paying pretty close attention to where the smoke started to fizzle and thin out a little bit, and it seemed to me that it was right up at about 5,000 feet. So rather than going an extra 4 miles today or whatever, who cares, and putting myself below 5,000 feet, I just thought, you know what, I'll just camp where I noticed the snow or the smoke line. So if you want to call it that, I don't know. I'm not even perfectly sure if that's how smoke works. I think there's probably way more variables, but drop a comment if you know better than me. I wouldn't be surprised if you do. So that's all I got. Another long check-in. Sorry about that. I will talk to you guys tomorrow.